Hey y'all, this is Marisa with Rustics by Risa. Here's part 6 of the round pedestal table refinish. Today we'll be sanding down the chairs using our Ryobi detail sander and regular sander. Here's the grits of sandpaper that we're going to use and also the tools that you will need to be able to do this. I'm starting with an 80 grit sandpaper to remove all the top layer. When sanding around the sides of the chairs, be careful not to go up onto the ridges because the 80 grit will completely remove the surface. We can go back and hit those ridges when we change to the 120 grit sandpaper. Now I'm going in with my detailed sander with an 80 grit sandpaper on it around the spindles of the chair. A really cool option on this detailed sander is that you can change the direction of the top. So you just unscrew it using a hex screw and change the direction, screw it back in. Be sure to remove the battery when you're doing this. This just gives me a different direction to be able to get in closer to the spindles. When attaching the sandpaper, I like to curve it so that it creates a lip, and that way when I'm sanding at the base of the spindles, it also removes the surface of the base of the spindles and saves a little bit of time in the future. A neat trick is that your regular sandpaper can be broken like so and used on your detailed sander. Now I'm going in with a 120 grit to remove a bunch of the surface, but also leave a really nice smooth finish. Any of the extra varnish that was left over from the 80 grit sandpaper can usually be removed with the 120. Here I'm using the sander to round out the edges of the chair and give it a really smooth finish. Now I'm going to be removing the felt pads to the bottom of the chairs. We will be sanding them down, and then when we are finished painting, I'll add new ones to it. The feet of these chairs have an angle to them, so while I'm sanding, I'm going to follow along the angle of the feet. There is also quite a bit of damage around the feet of the chairs, so I'm going to heavily sand that area to make sure it's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to go around and scuff up the legs of the chairs and fix any parts that may be damaged. And that is because we are going to paint the legs of the chairs. When you're painting, you do not need to remove the entire surface, just scuff it up. We're going to do the same thing on the top as well. Now I'm just using a black sander to go back into the spindles of the chairs and really make sure I removed all of the surface area. Now that I'm done sanding, I'm going to heavily wet a rag. And when I mean heavy, this thing has to be soaked. And then we're going to wipe down the entire chair. When you sand something and remove the entire surface area, it is best to wet wipe it down afterwards and then let it dry. When it dries, every little particle that's left will be raised to the surface. Then we'll go in with the 240 grit. Because I'm staining the seat first, we're going to tape the spindles of the chairs. I start with the front facing me. You'll just take about a 4-inch piece and wrap it around the front. Then you spin the chair around and do the other side. Now that the chair is dried, we're going in with our 240 to remove any of the particles that may be raised to the surface. Now it's time to stain. I'm using a Minwax water-based American Walnut stain, my favorite stain. Here we are doing the second coat of American Walnut onto the bottom side of the table. The first coat I did really wasn't as dark as I wanted it to be, so I'm going over that again. Now moving to the top, I'm using 2 brushes for this one. The top I'm going to use my 2.5, and then on the sides I will use a 1.5. I'm going a little heavier with the stain on the top because it took 2 coats to do the underside. I don't want it to take 2 coats to do on the top as well. So I'm doing 1 heavy coat to match the 2 coats that we did underneath. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Look out for part 7 coming soon.